The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles.
Charles, good morning. I want to talk about asbestos today. This has made the New York Times, it's made the world news. It nearly cancelled the most important thing in the history of Australia, which is Taylor Swift's series of concerts at Accor Stadium next weekend, which I'm talking, of course, about asbestos.
Yes. Well, I mean, asbestos is the most Sydney thing you can get, isn't it?
It is. It's the Sydneyest thing of all. I know you're in Adelaide doing wankonomics, but the suburb where we live, Charles, in the city of Sydney, is absolutely covered. Every park is sort of taped off like there's murders that have happened.
Yes.
Every sort of flower bed in the very leafy streets around the area where we live, they're all taped off. It's amazing. It's as though any foliage is toxic.
I know, but I don't know whether you've noticed, Dom, but the fences that they're using to prevent you from getting into the flower beds and sniffing up that asbestos and getting a nice little rush, presumably to stop the kids from doing that as well. But they all have signs on them. I don't know whether you've noticed. They've got the ones with warning asbestos, right? Then on every alternate fence, they have proudly made in Australia.
Yeah, I think they put that on the gravestones as well. If you die of asbestosis, proudly produced in Australia. Yeah.
This death proudly made in Australia.
So we'll get into the asbestos, but before we do, Charles, there's some breaking news, and it is hyper local, but I think that's okay because we're from Sydney, so we're very self-indulgent. The headline that I saw this morning was Porto to close thanks to the ATO.
What?
I know.
What?
Porto.
So is
close to
Porto
all of our
only a
hearts.
Sydney thing? I thought everywhere it had a Porto.
Well, I then looked at the news article in more detail, and it's the one in Darling Harbour and the one in Enmore, the one that we always have gone to for many years, late at night.
So are they saying they're tax cheats, or was it just a innocent error?
It was just a misunderstanding about whether they needed to pay the ATO $500,000. You know how these things can come up in a small business?
Yeah. No, that happens all the time. You know, sort of, I didn't carry the one. Oh, well.
And in fact, it's only the Newtown Enmore one, because the one in Harbourside at Darling Harbour, which I also went to a few times, that's been closed for a year because they've demolished the entire thing to build a brand new fancy pants shopping centre and apartments. But the Porto of our heart has gone.
I know exactly what happened, is Porto was paying its full tax.
Yeah.
You know, it was paying the whole amount of tax. And then when it started, so it just when it was a chicken shop back in that one location in Enmore. And then as they started to expand, they started paying a thinner and thinner amount of tax and
See where you go.
skimping on all the fucking ingredients in their tax bill. And you ended up like that. Now,
shrinkflation. It's called.
Yeah, shrinkflation. If you know anything about the history of a Porto, you would know that 25 years ago, a Porto burgers actually were good, and now they're shit.
And you now got to order a double to get what
you got to order
a
a double to get the same chicken as you would have got 25 years. Yeah, we sound like old middle-aged men, don't we?
Yeah, let's play an ad and then get on to the asbestos. But it's still sad because the one in Broadway already shut down just because it was full of rats. Do you remember that?
Rats, remember that? It went viral because there's so many rats. And for me, all it was a reminder of is, I love that at Porto. I should go there.
Who can blame the rats? They're very nice burgers.
Exactly. Like, if anything, that was like social proof that Porto's burgers were good back then.
So the asbestos is absolutely everywhere at the moment, and I want to give some context to this, Charles, because do you know who the world's largest producer of asbestos is? Apparently, this may have been made in Australia, as you say. The country that's out there pumping out asbestos 24/7 in massive numbers.
I think it's India, isn't it?
It's Russia. It's Russia.
Oh,
so this is
right.
Putin's treating this as the slow Novichok.
He's trying to Nalvani all of us.
20 years it takes. And I got to say, the way the planet's going, I don't think we've got 20 years. I think we can go and play in the asbestos park, which is why I'm so glad that they've just put one little strip of like crime scene tape around them all so that my toddler could just wander in there. No problem.
I don't quite understand what's happened. So there's a sort of mulch. Like all gardens need mulch, right?
Yeah.
And when you buy mulch, you sort of assume that it's, chopped up leaves and grass.
Yeah, as opposed to chopped up asbestos. Look, it's an easy misunderstanding.
So how did somebody go, oh, fuck, I've got a whole lot of asbestos to get rid of. I know what I'll do. I'll put it in the garden mulch.
I'll put it in the mulcher.
Yeah, I'll put it in the mulcher.
Which crunches everything up and thereby releases the delicious asbestos dust, which is so poisonous.
And the guy who runs the firm that sold this mulch to everyone, he's had a string of allegations against him dating back decades, doesn't he? Like, there was a report about all the sort of, things that, like, he was deregistered about 10 years ago. I don't know whether you can be registered as a licensed garden mulch provider.
So it's Green Life Resource Recovery is the company. I don't know the history of it, but I do know that they were banned from selling any mulch while they investigated. And I do know that they went to court to fight the ban. Let us sell our mulch. It's all over Sydney. There are schools closing left, right and centre. I think kids are actually out there putting mulch at their schools in the hope that they'll get shut down.
In the hope of... Look, I'll tell you what, Dom. Like, I'm worried about the kids. Of course I'll worry about the kids. You've always got to worry about the kids. But I also worry about the adults.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, if kids can't play in the gardens, what are the adults going to do? You're going to have them tearing up your house all day.
That's so true. I mean, the weekend before this all happened, I took my kids to 3 parks, all of which now have this whole mulch issue going on now. I don't think I'll be alive in 20 years to find out whether they got asbestosis the way my health's going, but nevertheless, this is a human right that parents have, is to dump kids at parks.
In parks.
And so I've just
largely unsupervised,
exactly,
ideally.
to just to roam freely in the mulch and the asbestos. But Charles, I must say, I've always said no to garden beds and flowers and all these things. I've been telling my wife for years on Valentine's Day, look, I'm not going to get you flowers. They might have asbestos in them.
They might have asbestos.
Finally, I'm vindicated.
But I'll tell you what I'm worried about.
What are you worried about?
The mulch. What else has the asbestos got into? Because asbestos is basically a white powder, isn't it?
Sure.
My concern is that the asbestos has got into Sydney's supply of cocaine.
Oh, dear.
And look, I'm prepared to take one for the team, Dom.
Oh, really?
If anyone's got any cocaine that they want tested and they want verified whether it's got asbestos or not, please do send them to me, and I'll do a rigorous check of
that's
that substance.
Very generous of you to do that for public
I'm
health.
putting my life on the line.
Yeah, you are. And it's a life we can afford to lose, frankly, if there is asbestos in it.
Take
Charles,
one for the team.
how will you be able to tell? I must say.
Well, my method is very clear, right? I take all of it,
right,
because it is very Moorish.
Sure,
asbestos is very. Well, I mean, that's why Australia was addicted to asbestos for so long. It's very Moorish.
Yeah.
But then wait 20 years.
Absolutely.
If I die of asbestosis, then there was cocaine in your asbestos.
You just said there was cocaine in the asbestos. Yes, that's right. Because the asbestos is the main thing you cut it with. Well, Charles, I think we've got to look at the bright side of all of this. Yes, okay, there's asbestos in all the parks where our kids play, where they hang out, and they could get a terrible disease. But as against that, Charles, asbestos is wonderfully fireproof. There's no way these garden beds are catching on fire. And so I say if there's more mulch from this company, we should hire them to produce mulch that actively contains asbestos and just spray it from planes over our national parks. You'd have no more bushfires. We'd be completely safe. You wouldn't be able to visit the bushfires, which would mean no one would make me try to go bushwalking. That would be a plus. And eventually, in millions of years, the asbestos would presumably break down. And in the meantime, nothing could catch on fire. It's perfect.
I think that's an idea, Dom.
It is. It's an idea whose time has come. The other thing is, think of the adventure tourism opportunities, right? If you're wanting thrill seekers, it's so hard to get a rush these days. But, coming to Sydney to go to a flower bed...
Go to a flower bed.
Boring.
Yes. Oh,
boring,
my God.
as of 2 weeks ago. Now you're taking... It's like bungee jumping for your nose.
I reckon Red Bull will sponsor it.
Red Bull will definitely sponsor it. I think it could be amazing.
Watch as this kid visits a Sydney park.
Will the flowers kill them in 20 years' time? A slow and horrible death. And we shouldn't minimise asbestosis.
No, it's a horrible disease. It's absolutely horrible. But that said, I've got one more idea, which is this is really a return to the 1980s, Dom, isn't it?
Oh,
because,
of course.
I don't know about you, but I grew up in a weatherboard house.
Oh, in Fibro?
Yeah, in Fibro.
Are you a Fibro? You're not one of those Silvertails. You're a Fibro.
Yeah, we were Fibro. Well, we were Fibro, and then I think at some point a relative died. We inherited some money, and we got double brick, and it was all like that was what the inheritance was used on to make our Fibro house brick. Not
a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's what the building industry did over the next few decades.
But the thing is that when they were taking all the weatherboard out from the house, I was there watching the builders, trying to help them and stuff like that.
Cut it all up without
And it
masks.
was just like, dusty white stuff. Yeah, just put it in the
bit of
bag.
fun.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is, back then, the other thing that we had that was wonderfully dangerous, but also a huge amount of fun, but also caused fire, was fireworks, right? So I think if we're bringing back asbestos for kids, I think we should also bring back fireworks because they're not going to catch on fire.
No.
Because they've got all the asbestos, dusted in asbestos, and then we can have the fun. It was so much fun, Dom.
It was. They were more fun days. Let's think back on those days while we listen to this.
The Chaser Report. Less news, more often.
I couldn't agree more. I think we just have to live with asbestos again and think of the benefits. I mean,
Yes.
I mentioned Putin and the slow Novichok. Imagine if Prigozhin, the guy that ran the mercenaries in the Wagner Group, if his plane had been made out of asbestos, Putin couldn't have blown it up. He'd still be alive.
It's all swings and roundabouts,
It is.
really,
It
with
swings and-
asbestos, isn't it?
There's a lot of upside with it. You might die slowly and horribly, but you won't catch on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But also I was thinking, so one of the sad things about all this, these parks being closed, is that the Mardi Gras Fair Day, the traditional opener of Mardi Gras,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
been
what's going to happen
cancelled.
with that? Because that's usually down near us, isn't
Yeah,
it?
Victoria Park near Sydney University. It's just been cancelled. It's really sad. It's a huge day for the community. There's thousands of people come out. There's stalls and all this kind of stuff. And it just makes me think back, Charles, to the heyday of the Reverend Fred Nile, who every single year would go out and pray for rain on Mardi Gras parade night. He'd be out there with 2 or 3 followers, no more than that, praying for the Mardi Gras to be ruined. And it was always an absolute scorcher of a day. And it just goes to show you got to pray for the right thing. If he'd prayed for asbestos at Fair Day, it would have been great. It's decades later, Fred. He must be happy.
I think a lot of people who go to Mardi Gras pray for a white powder on Fair Day.
I've heard this. Sleazeball?
Their prayers have been answered in some respect. So what are people in Sydney going to do? I mean, surely we need to shut down the Taylor Swift concert. Surely they can't go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, Charles, they've done the tests already.
If the kids can't go to the park, then they can't go to Taylor Swift.
That's what I've been telling my daughter. I've been telling her that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Authority, has closed down Taylor. I don't know what she's going to do when all of her friends go, but for now I'm safe.
Yeah.
But no, they went and tested the only thing they cared about, they went and tested all the sites at Homebush. And the great thing, Charles, for those who haven't been to the Olympic Stadium in Sydney, is that they were so visionary in the design of it. There's no grass.
There's no grass. Perfect.
It's a concrete bowl, basically.
It's also
giant asphalt car park.
No, but I don't know whether you remember, but it was built on top of a toxic waste dump.
Sure.
Remember?
On top of asbestos, in other words.
Homebush tip. Well, no, it was like toxins and stuff
it was like
that. It was
dioxins
way
and
worse.
shit. Yeah.
And they realised, actually, there's no way we can get all the toxins out.
Yep.
So they just concreted over
in.
it. Yes. And you can't have flowers growing out of concrete.
I mean, it's the same way the mafia disposes of their bodies. It's a very sensible idea.
Yes.
But what you do is you just concrete the whole thing and get Taylor Swift to come and sing her little pretty songs on top, and everyone forgets about it.
So, in the lead up to the Olympics, they had a problem in Homebush Bay, which was that it was still quite smelly.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember this?
No, I can believe you.
There are a whole heap of new developments that were built as the Olympic Village, including suburbs like Rhodes. Right?
And Newington, the hilariously named Newington, yeah.
But the thing is, they stank because essentially it was built on top of a tip. And so the solution, and this is true, I don't know whether it still happens today, but for years afterwards as well, every afternoon as the breeze came in off the harbour and the stench sort of rolled across the suburbs, they would spray filtered water where, like into the harbour, like this fine mist to sort of try and neutralise the smell as it came off the harbour.
What a good idea.
Yeah, so that's what we need. We need an asbestos version of that.
We just need an Evian spray.
Yeah, because what's the solution going to be here for the asbestos? It's going to be, let's dig up every single fucking flower bed in Sydney. That's not going to happen. Like, what we need is, I don't know, some sort of,
We just had some of the biggest storms in the history of Sydney yesterday, and so it's probably all been washed out to sea.
It's all been washed out to sea. The dolphins can deal with it.
The dolphins can deal with
their
it.
problem.
It can go into the food chain. That's why we want the asbestos. Fantastic. Are you going to Taylor finally, Charles? Are you coming back for the gigs on the weekend? I've actually been on the ticket website, not because I particularly want to go, just because I want to, A, contribute to the delays, and B, just see how long it takes. It's amazing. You've got to have a web browser open for about 3 hours and then be there for exactly the 10 minutes where there's a window to click on something that shows you're still interested, and I haven't managed to muster that level of interest yet.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, I've bought about 10 tickets, but I'm just not going to go.
Just, as a silent protest, Taylor looks out and just sees 10 empty seats.
10
the only
empty
seats in the whole stadium.
Yeah.
And she just
You
thinks
know
there's
how
someone
they say,
out there.
she got 96,000 exactly.
Yeah.
All the 3 MCG concerts. Well, that's not going to happen in Sydney. It'll be 95,990.
I just hope she gets to visit some. She's got several days till the gigs start. I just hope she gets to visit some lovely parks in Sydney during the time.
I'll tell you what, if she makes a surprise visit at Mardi Gras, that would be the best thing in the universe. Imagine that.
That would be part of the plot to re-elect Joe Biden, wouldn't it? Getting on board with Mardi Gras.
That's right.
All right. Well, enjoy Adelaide, Charles, and we'll try and keep some lovely asbestos for you when you get back.
Yeah, because there's none here. I mean, what is this fucking place? What a dump.
Perhaps that's where we can send Sydney's asbestos. If we put it in barrels, they'll know what to do.
Yeah, they'll take it. Our gears from Road, we are part of the Iconoclast Network. Catch you tomorrow.